we're going to be talking about the virtual MSO, which is a bit of a misnomer because MSOs per se evaporated as a term a few years ago. But we all know that a virtual MSO is essentially an aggregator and marketer of television product without physical plant, or at least outside of the physical plant. So today we're going to talk about what it means for this industry to morph or evolve into that virtual business. I've spent my career, which now spans about 40 years, finally trying to figure out how this business works in the traditional sense. And now in the course of about the next year, we're going to turn all of that upside down. We're going to be working outside of our physical footprints. We're going to be doing partnerships with people that we never in the world thought we'd do partnerships with, and we're going to be competing with people that we never thought we'd be competing with. So before we get started, I'm going to bring our panelists up, and we're going to be working from my left over here. So let's, since it sort of looks like it's a game show setting, let's see if we can make this work. She is Senior VP of Distribution Strategy and Development for Fox Networks. Sherry Brennan, come on down. Give her a hand. Come on, come on, come on. He is Chief Executive Officer of Tomorrowish. Mick Darling, come on down. He is Chief Executive Officer of MPP Global. Paul Johnson, come on down. He is General Manager Interactive and Advanced TV for Dish Network. Adam Lowy, come on down. He is CEO of Net2 TV, and I'm warned not to let him talk too much. Tom Morgan, come on down. He is VP of Entertainment and Tech Policy for Verizon Communications. Eric Fitzgerald-Reed, come on down. And he is Chief Technical Officer of WebTuner. And for the last 20 years that I've known him, I still don't know what in the world he's talking about. Edward Zaslavsky, come on down. All right, everybody, and our crowd is starting to come in. I appreciate that. Everybody's brought their coffee. We're going to go without, wow, that's my hat. You know, when I first started doing the doctor about 5 years ago, one of the first things that I would find when I met people was they'd come up to me, they said, "Where's your hat?" So there's my hat. We're not doing presentations today. We're going to let everybody talk for a couple of minutes about who they are, what they do, how it relates to the topic, and then we're going to get into the questions. So Edward Zaslavsky, tell us a little bit about WebTuner. Microphone on?
On. Oh, hello?
There you go.
WebTuner developed technology for virtual MSO. And this technology consists of two components. We developed world's smallest set-top box, which is pure IP set-top box. It's not a hybrid set-top box. And we also developed next-generation electronic programming guide, which will control user experience in the living room. And next generation electronic programming guide, today it's not only grid. This guide actually consists recommendation engine, search engine, real-time census level audience measurement system, platform for targeted advertisement, and the platform for third-party application to be deployed on this set-top box. So whoever wants to be a virtual MSO, they can go and one-stop shopping and buy this solution and deploy your own MSO service.
Thank you. Mick Darling, Tomorrowish.
Sure. Tomorrowish is a TiVo for Twitter, to make the Hollywood statement. It is we capture the social media conversation that happens live for every TV show that's out there. The Twitter and Facebook comments, we curate all of that. We filter out the statements with the 7 words you can't say on TV, plus a whole lot more. And when we end up with a really high-quality conversation that we can stream in real time with that show on, say, on the East Coast, but also we can record and replay that for folks who use DVRs and are just a few minutes behind. Or folks out here on the West Coast, 3 hours later, and they want to see that conversation. So we can have that curated East Coast conversation merged with the live West Coast conversation, and still allow people to add new comments into that and plug those new messages right into those points of it. So it now makes any potential VOD platform a social TV platform.
Sherry Brennan.
Hi. So everyone knows what Fox does. We obviously create lots of content and have a lot of television networks. And my particular role there is to help the company figure out how to license our content into both traditional and emerging platforms. So everything from EST to DIRECTV, basically.
Paul Johnson, MPP Global.
Thanks, Rick. MPP, we produce a cloud-based platform we call eSuite, which provides CRM and e-commerce facilities, which was designed by the media and entertainment sectors to embrace digital content monetization. Put a different way, there's lots of Apple devices around the room. When you first bought your first Apple device, you were asked to create an identity. The second thing you were asked to do was to put in your credit card details. It's that solution, that service that MPP plugs into the back of leading media organizations around the world.
Thank you. Adam Lowy.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. First of all, I'm sure everyone's familiar with DISH. We're the third largest MVPD. And I'm currently working in the media sales team for interactive and advanced TV. Well, why am I here? Why is DISH on this panel? So we're doing it. We've announced a few months ago that we are launching a completely separate over-the-top service. I'll talk a little about that as we go on, Rick. But I am knee-deep in it all in terms of technical to operational, rights, programming. It's pretty easy. It's very interesting being where I'm at, but really to talk to all you about it. But really trying to get us to the next level, trying to get those cord cutters, cord nevers, what we call cord haters, but really trying to get that audience who probably wouldn't get a satellite or a cable service anyway. So we're looking at how we can target them and get them.
Thank you. Tom Morgan.
My name is Tom Morgan. I'm CEO and founder of a company called Net2 TV. Two reasons I'm up here. From late 2010 through all of 2011, I was CEO of a thing called Virgin TV USA, which was Virgin's attempt to build a virtual MVPD. I brought in a group called, and I spent a lot of time with Fox and a variety of people looking at how you tackled it. Then I brought in a group called Intel Capital. They brought in a group called Intel Digital Home Group, and that eventually became OnQ, and Virgin left the joint venture. And I went on to found Net2. Net2 is linear ad-supported television over smart devices with sources not covered by a carriage contract. We've licensed all the brands of Time Publishing. We produce This Week in Time, Cooking Light, Cycle World television on smart TVs.
Thank you. And Eric Fitzgerald Reed, Verizon.
Yep. Good morning. My name is Eric Reed. I'm the Vice President of Entertainment and Tech Policy for Verizon. We're a broadband and entertainment company making sure that we can deliver rich content to any device, anytime, anywhere. So your cell phone, smartphones, laptops, tablets, television sets, any screen, anytime, anywhere. In terms of my job, it's a little bit unique from everybody else probably on the panel because I look at where the consumer marketplace is going, look at those trends and tie it back to making sure that we have good public policy and good legislation and good, making sure that consumers understand the laws that are in the marketplace and how that affects their behavior or their ability to get content. So things like piracy, privacy, that unfortunate issue called net neutrality, I deal with those sort of issues. So I do a lot of work in Washington, but I'm based here working with the tech ecosystem in Silicon Valley and also in LA and Silicon Beach.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. There are a lot of questions that the audience is going to have. I'm going to try to anticipate some of those. But I want to dig in first into the content. Adam. What content is DISH going to be delivering on this service? And does the service have a name? Does it have a working name? What do we call it? DISH without the pizza pan. What do we call it?
It does not actually have a name yet.
Okay.
We've publicly announced that we're working with Disney and the Disney properties. So for now, consider Disney, Disney Channel, all the ESPNs, et cetera, that family of networks. First of all, from what you've all probably read, if you're familiar with it, a lot of it is hearsay, true, untrue, et cetera. So what I really can say right now, Rick, is it's the Disney networks, but we're talking to all the programmers that are on our traditional service. It, again, just to make it clear, it is a completely separate product, a completely separate service. Starts at 0, right? So it doesn't take the current DISH subscribers and all of a sudden make them over the top. This is something completely different.
Okay, now, so you don't need to be a DISH satellite subscriber to get the new DISH service?
That's correct.
Okay. From the perspective, since we're coming at this on how do you run all this business,
right.
Is this going to be run out of the existing DISH network Talk First video content management? Is this going to be delivered roughly the same way except bouncing off a bird, it's going over IP?
For now, yes, but it will be moved over to its own at some point. I should also state that this is live streamed content. This is VOD. This is a bit of everything. So for now, we're going to utilize the services that we currently have for the DISH system, but it will be completely moved over to a full IP-based infrastructure, if you will. I don't have much more on that from a technical perspective, but all this is being moved very fast.
Yeah, it is being
very fast.
All right.
So anything I say today could be different tomorrow.
Eric Reed at Verizon, what can you share with us about what, because the announcement has been made, you're doing something. Publicly, what can you say?
Well, I think you raised a point about your large resume in terms of working with the Intel Media assets. Of course, we just acquired Uplink, Edgecast as well, which is a content delivery network, and amongst the OnQ and Intel Media assets. So we're looking at how can we provide not only the traditional linear television product, but alongside of that, with the cord cutters and the cord nevers, how do we provide the adequate amount of capacity for them to see high quality content, again, in an anytime, anywhere environment. The challenge is obviously when you're trying to encode a device like this versus a television set. This is why we acquired those assets, to make sure technically that when you're streaming that video, that it's just as crystal clear on this device as it is on a larger screen. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about complementary services, you want to make sure that the LTE wireless connections that we have, or Fios internet that's going into the home, that if somebody does not want a linear product or a bundled product, that they can still, if they have a broadband connection, to be able to access video.
Sherry Brennan, is Fox going to sell to these guys?
We'd like to, yeah. We're in the business of selling content to people who are in the business of reselling it. So we love that. Right. New entrants are great.
Is this another window for you? Is that the way to think of it?
No, I don't think so. They're both talking about live linear television. So it would be the same services that we license to each of the incumbents that they represent. So
now if Adam, I'm going to go there, if Adam is selling DISH in Philadelphia, he's currently selling DISH satellite in Philadelphia into homes within the Comcast footprint. From your perspective, is there any difference to him selling a broadband service to homes in the Comcast footprint?
Well, look, there are some rights issues. Everybody is aware of that. It's a different pipe that wasn't anticipated in many of our licensing agreements, 5 or 10 years ago. We're of course, fixing that and getting ourselves into a position where we can license to over-the-top platforms. But setting the rights issues aside, a pay TV operator is just a pay TV operator. We don't really care to differentiate based on the delivery platform.
Okay.
Other than as we need to for rights reasons.
All right, now that makes sense. Would Fox or is somebody at Fox looking at doing a direct-to-consumer product of their own?
We have, not with like a linear network like a Fox Sports 1 or the Fox Broadcasting Company. I mean, Fox is over the air direct to consumers for free, right? So we already are in that business. We're not looking at creating some Fox branded, you know, mini MVPD service particularly. I don't think we are, although I don't run the company, just so you know. So there could be ideas floating around in the boardroom that I'm not aware of. But no, I mean, we do a lot of direct-to-consumer businesses. Obviously, we have movies, which are direct-to-consumer. We have some broadband-only content that we create that's direct-to-consumer that goes out over YouTube and other platforms. We have our website and our apps that go directly to consumers. So we are in both camps. But as with respect to the linear television networks themselves, that's really an aggregator business that we're in, and I don't really foresee that changing dramatically anytime soon. Okay,
so if I am a Comcast subscriber and I want to watch something from FX, Justified, sort of like that show. Right now, am I getting that from your server or am I getting that from Comcast?
Well, you forgot to say where you're going to watch it.
I'm going to watch it on my iPad.
Well, that's just your screen. That doesn't tell me what app you're in.
Out of my home. On the train.
It's gotten to your to stop being cute here. It depends on whether you're in an FX app, if you're in the Comcast app, if you're on Hulu, if you're on Netflix. I mean, there are many places that you can go to watch a given piece of content. And the player depends on where you are and then what the particular content provider's relationship is with the entity. So you could go to Comcast and see an FX show on the Comcast player, or you could go see it on our player, depending on the underlying deal.
Got it. So I have to ask the question. Right now, how the hell do you keep track of all that?
It's the full employment plan for young people.
I mean, it's a bit of a nightmare, and it's not going to get any better, is it?
Well, it's a good thing we have computers. You know, it makes it a lot easier. You can organize a lot of information that way. So, yeah, it's not trivial, but it's not impossible either. It is complicated, and it would be nice if things were more unified, I guess, but that doesn't seem likely to happen anytime soon either.
All right. Now, Tom Morgan, you've decided that there's gold in them thar hills by taking content that is not traditional off-network content or even on-network content, and you're going to be delivering that direct to consumers. How do you make money on that?
Our economic model more resembles Freeview out of the UK than it does a pay subscription model. It's linear long form, DAI-based, dynamic interstitial, normal interstitial television ads inserted at time of play. So we generate about 16 to 18 ad units. We sell them through TV exchanges right now. And then we work with carriers in places where, remember, for example, 25% of Charter's customer base is IP only, and they don't have access to linear. That customer base does not have access to linear because linear is inside the paywall. So we're outside the paywall, but with something that looks an awful lot like Canoe, Black Arrow, and Freewheel are doing in cable VOD or TV everywhere.
And you initially, if I remember correctly, were targeting smart TVs?
Yeah, we're on 20 million screens. As of May 18th, we come pre-install on all Samsung smart TVs.
Okay. Now, then you get into the TVs that either aren't so smart or aren't well connected. Edward, WebTuner is a way to make not so smart TVs smart as long as they have an HDMI input, right?
That is correct. So we developed our own set-top box, which is actually not a set-top box. This is kind of pocket-sized device. This is our device, but this is actually a real IP set-top box. So you can connect this set-top box into any TV with HDMI cable, and this TV becomes your access point to watch content which will be provided to you by Virtual MSO. It's any type of content, content which will came from Verizon, content which will came from DISH, content which will came from Net2TV. So this is a platform to publish any content in your living room and make it browsable, searchable, and also make it traceable back to advertisement agency with actually a real-time audience measurement system.
So it's an over-the-top set-top box that the consumer can install?
That is correct.
Interesting. Okay. When we look at the customers of all this, Paul, you're doing some work right now with BSkyB?
That's correct.
On managing their customer relationship and tracking the subscribers and who they're doing, what they're buying, what they're subscribing to. And these are not necessarily subscribers to their traditional service, right? These are over-the-top subscribers?
That's exactly right. I think Sky a few years ago had a target 10 by 10, which was 10 million paid TV subscribers by 2010. And since then, they saw the rate of increase of DTH, or direct-to-home customers, was starting to flatten. It's still increasing, but I guess with the likes of Netflix appearing, they wanted to produce another over-the-top product, which they did in the form of Now TV, which was an alternative way of getting Sky content to the market without a consumer needing a satellite dish on the side of the house. It's proven popular. We're in the unique position of processing all of those transactions, and whilst I can't tell you exactly how successful it's been, we know Sky is happy. We saw yesterday on one of the panels talk about even a day pass for Sky Sports content, so that for the first time consumers are able to dip in, buy a 24-hour pass to sports content to watch the game of the day or whatever might be showing. For Sky, that includes a whole raft of sports, including Formula One, soccer, cricket, rugby, those premium sports popular in the UK. And I think what's interesting in the US market is seeing, or I guess hoping, how the market will change over the next few years, in that, as you say, some of the operators starting to play in the back gardens of those Comcast, for example, and the footprint they have, and producing the same content in those areas. And obviously with the range of subscriptions and bundles and pricing and payment types that MPP can offer, along with promotions and incentives and free trials, I think in the US competition will become more fierce, and what we've seen in the UK is quite a different market, with BT, Virgin and others who do compete with each other pretty hard.
All right, so now I'm going to lay out a possible future that I have actually told some of my clients about, and after they pick their jaws up off the desk, they say, well, how do we deal with that? Here is my look at the future. That sometime in the next 18 months, a big operator like Comcast will untether its broadband service from its television delivery service. The broadband service will maintain the physical plant with fabulously high margins and all the CapEx, but no more payments to ESPN. The television delivery service will actually rent bandwidth from the Comcast broadband service to deliver to subscribers, much in the same way as we have seen the electric energy market change, where you might be buying your energy from one company, but the delivery company are the guys with the poles. So when you see that happen, some interesting things start to appear. Number one, all of a sudden Comcast with X1, and I don't need them to verify this, I think it's going to happen. Comcast with X1 is delivering everything off the cloud. And pretty much the minute that Verizon starts delivering an over-the-top product into Philadelphia Comcast footprint, Comcast will go over the top and start delivering in somebody else's sandbox. And I think that the old gentlemen's agreements, and they were really nothing more than that, that you had one operator saddling upside next to the other operator, and they didn't mark into each other's territories. If anything, they figured out eventually how to do an acquisition so they could get economies of scale. I think that all goes south very, very quickly. So the future that I see in 18 months is that we have multiple operators delivering over broadband, the broadband pipes still maintained by the traditional companies that have them, which are Verizon and AT&T, and the cable operators maintain the broadband pipes. But now the consumer, I in my home, could subscribe to the DISH to be named product, right? The FiOS to be named package of products. I can't wait to subscribe to the AT&T DIRECTV NFL Sunday Ticket product. Oh, you think that's why they bought that company? To get the NFL Sunday Ticket product direct into my home without actually having to have a DIRECTV service. So now I, as a subscriber, am going to cover my table with different subscription packages of different services, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. My Fox Justified season ticket from FX Network, who knows if it's going to happen. Someone's going to do it. ABC's probably going to do it in a heartbeat. NBC's going to be doing it. All of those packages are going to go to the subscriber. And is David Priceman in the room? David, are you here? When I was at Showtime for 12 years, we had pay TV churn that I'm sure hasn't abated, and it was 50% per year, which meant that we had to acquire a number equivalent to 50% of our subscribers just to stay even every year. It made a subscriber acquisition monster. Okay, now please envision tens of millions of subscribers with a kitchen table like mine, with all of those packages of services out there from different people, and I am flipping back and forth like playing cards. I just got a deal for 3 months free from Verizon. Flip, go to Verizon. Oh, now there's another deal for 3 months free from DISH. Flip, go over to DISH. It's going to be a little bit nuts. How do we market this stuff? Now let's start back up at the beginning. Mick Darling, what does social media do to help us understand this? Because I'm going to have a tendency to look to my friends to what they like.
Well, there's a lot of possibilities there, because now that there's a whole bunch of potential for viewership, startups like mine, the social media conversation that's out there leads to that's how people are going to be finding what they want to watch. And not just that they want to watch the best Fox show out there, So You Think You Can Dance, because I'm a ballroom dancer. But are they going to watch it on the Hulu app? Are they going to watch it on the Verizon product? Are they going to watch it in that TV product? And which one of them has the best social interaction? Which one shows me my friends talking about that? Which one shows interactions of, here are the dancers and all of their extra little routines and when they were screwing up, and they're critiquing themselves backstage right after they did all of that. All of that's extra content that can be generated from the producers, but also taken right from the user-generated content. And now it becomes a place for features are the thing that actually drive the subscriptions. And for startups like us, we love it, because there's all kinds of experimentation and new stuff that we're going to get to do with it.
Paul, do you know what your subscribers or what B-Sky-B subscribers are doing on the social side to help manage that process?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So now, Verizon, Eric, having now laid down the gauntlet about what I think the world's going to look like, and it doesn't matter if it's going to happen in 18 months, it's going to happen in 24 months, it's going to happen. It is the nature of this business, because the consumer will not be denied, okay? From a policy standpoint, all of a sudden, net neutrality and Tom Wheeler just got really, really interesting. Does it affect how Verizon, as first of all a broadband carrier delivering Comcast pack or Dish's package, we'll keep it where we are today, delivering Adam's package to your homes, you're going to allow that in? Not you personally. Is there going to be a model where he's going to pay for carriage?
I didn't bring my crystal ball with me, but I will say this, though. I think there's two things that we're all talking about here. One, it's all about capacity. So for all these different platforms we're talking about, through social engagement, through mobile apps, whatever platform we're talking about, we need to make sure that there's enough capacity, whether it's in the pipe or it's wirelessly. And increasingly, it's all about adding more spectrum.
Wait, stop. Are you going to go wireless?
We're already wireless.
Are you going to go wireless with a subscription package of television? Is the network big enough for that?
There's a potential for it. And that's what it gets back to why we need more spectrum as quickly as possible.
Okay.
As we can add more capacity to that wireless network, this will allow people to be able to take their content that they have recorded on their DVRs in the home and be able to take it with them on the go. So from a capacity standpoint, it's really about how much more investment can we drive into the broadband infrastructure. Now, getting to the consumer side, this is really, I think, an excellent time for consumers because now you're promoting their ability to have unlimited choices in terms of whatever content they want to get on whatever platform. From another perspective, I think that consumers look at this as, like you said, how can I go ahead and look at a DISH product versus a Comcast product versus a Verizon product and actually get what I want, whether it's going to be over the top or through a mobile app or whatever. So, you know, at the end of the day, from a policy standpoint, again, it's about increasing investment to add capacity into the network, whatever platform, wireless or wireline, and then promoting consumer choice in terms of whether we move away from the linear model and go to more of a la carte.
On January 3rd, 2012, ESPN signed a carriage contract with Comcast for 10 years. ESPN had been locked down for 10 years, and therefore the most important date in the future of television was January 3rd, 2022, the day that ESPN was released from that carriage contract until Adam's product was announced this year. And Adam's product, a personal subscription service, figured out a way to build a new bucket of television called a PSS, a personal subscription service. It meant instead of a family of household set-top boxes, it was a single stream. That one change in carriage licensing opened up the bundles that Sherry works with for like soccer, things like that, into different rebundling of television. So I think the most important product of the year is the PSS because it reset what was allowed or not allowed of traditional programming to come OTT. So what the carriers are doing is interesting. It's the rebundling of packages. When I was working at Virgin, 71% of Virgin customers carried a passport, the people that fly the airline. Only 31% of the average U.S. population carries a passport. To the Virgin customer, Premier League and soccer was more important than NFL because that was their heritage. But we couldn't bundle because the big 8 bundles were very fixed and very long-term and rigid in contracts. That is what's breaking down. That's what's getting really interesting. So it's not the a la carte of television we're going to see. It's the rebundling of television on a demographic or psychographic basis, not on a regional basis.
Now, Adam, after the ABC deal was announced, I recall seeing Les Moonves saying from CBS, I'll take that deal. Yeah. And you suggested that others might be joining your yet-to-be-named bundle of services, right? And initially, live only, right? Streaming?
Live and VOD.
Live and VOD?
Yes, it'll be live streaming and VOD.
Okay. That gets me to an interesting question. Sherry, here comes back to you. And you already sort of got to it because we'll take FX Justified again, okay? It's out on Hulu. You have, you might have episodes. You have them on Netflix or Amazon Prime, which?
We have prior seasons on Netflix, I believe.
On Netflix, okay. So now...
I don't know about that show in particular.
Okay,
so
but...
don't quote me.
Just a way to talk...
In general, library on Netflix.
There are shows like Justified, which is kind of a building, character-driven drama with a lot of people getting shot, and you kind of want to see them in order. And Season 5 is different from Season 4. As opposed to, my apologies to anybody from ABC Modern Family, where kind of every show looks, you know, alike. It's not
That's our show too.
Or
sorry.
Yeah, okay. So now to the consumer. This is a consumer marketing bit because it's one thing to look at the stuff on my kitchen table. It's another thing to think, how in the world did I make the decisions to do all that stuff? Is it? And I'm going to assume for a minute that FX is a Fox Studios product, and it may not be. Okay, so let's take a piece of product which is a 20th century in family piece of product that you are then distributing through the windows. How in the world do you keep the consumer straight on what season she's buying, who she's buying it from? Does it really matter? Do we even know how to communicate that stuff? Sherry.
So it's a really good question, and I think the picture that you paint is fundamentally unrealistic, in my opinion, because it's too much choice. And when consumers are faced with that much choice, they tend to become kind of paralyzed and do nothing. So my vision of the future is a little different. It is that, and you're seeing it with these couple of mergers that probably will go through or may go through in the next year, making the MVPDs even bigger, and the number of companies that have the ability to play in each other's backyards in the over-the-top fashion you described is actually diminishing through those mergers, right? Because you're not going to see like a very small cable operator all of a sudden become a national platform. They're just don't have the wherewithal probably to do that. So I guess my vision would be more that the larger players in the pay TV space will end up acquiring many of those same rights that you're describing and being able to offer all of that choice within their own brand. So, and you're seeing Comcast, I mean, yesterday's demo of the X1 platform, they're basically moving in that direction where by subscribing to that pay TV provider, you will have access to current season content, prior season content, a whole bunch of live linear networks right now streaming on any device in your home, soon, I would imagine, outside the home as well. So I think all of those choices are going to be part of what you pay for in the pay TV bundle. And that's more the vision of the future I have. So I don't think people are going to be flipping back and forth between pay TV providers. First of all, they're not dumb. They're not going to let that happen. They will tie discounts to longevity of the subscriber. So you're not going to be able to do 3 months with Verizon and 3 months with DISH. If you subscribe to the DISH PSS and get married and have a couple kids, and all of a sudden you want more than one TV, oops, I guess you have to go now subscribe to the real DISH package, right? Or the Verizon or Comcast or whomever. So I tend to be a little bit of a naysayer, I guess, in terms of responding to the proposition you laid out. I don't think that's very likely. But I do think consumers win because they get an easier message from a consistent distributor, and they get everything they want from one or two places. So I think that that's actually good news for consumers who today are very confused and have no idea where to go for a particular piece of content.
Adam.
A couple things. Number one, about consumers having too much choice. It's a heck of a lot of choice. Too much choice, I think I saw a little comment on there too. It has to be streamlined a little bit better. It has to be more unified, right? Windowing makes it a little bit more difficult when certain content or certain programs are here, but yet if you go on this device or to this service, you don't get episodes until this certain time. So I think it more has to be unified, and then, you know, choices, again, from a user experience is choice. What I also want to say too is something that scares me, and Rick, what you were talking about, you know, the table and having, you know, different things on there. This product, or OTT as a whole, and something that I think about a lot, from a stickiness perspective of a product, it's a lot different than having a set-top box, having a satellite on your roof, having a cabinet built, you know, in your living room where you have something there. The stickiness of an OTT product is a lot different, right? So if price is wrong,
lack thereof, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot different. So you know, at any time, you just don't pay, it's over. It's that choice is a lot different when you have a box, when you have that. Exactly.
And that might be your set-top box.
Right. That might be your set-top box. So,
in point of fact, when you subscribe to the DISH to be named product, and on a one-year contract, you might throw this guy in for free with the old cell phone model.
So it has a lot, right? With choice, has a lot of other things. Advertising is something as well. I'm sorry?
Can you go to that big of a screen? Because that device goes to a really big screen. I don't think that service does. I don't know for sure, but certainly isn't pitched that way.
We haven't pitched all things away. But, you know, I don't know the answer from a tech side. But I will say this, is that, you know, it brings up a whole new level of how you have to be careful of how much commercial time you have, how you got to be careful of your product, technically, operationally. Everything has to be sound, because one screw up, it's gone, as opposed to, again, having a dish on your roof, having a box, having a cabinet built. So it's something I think we think about very clearly. The consumer is going to win out in the end, and we've got to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape for that.
It's going to be a great time for attorneys. And by the way, for anybody in the content business, in the middle of all this stuff, are we going to start seeing YouTube and user-generated content come in through all this mix?
Yeah, I think we're already seeing that. I mean, all my nieces right now only watch Minecraft videos. They do not watch television at all.
Dear God.
Yes. And you're seeing all the linear broadcasts, everything we're familiar with, or all that is going to be competing with all of that plus 1,000 other new pieces of content. And you're going to have bloggers and people on Twitter and their friends and their friends' networks communicating all of that. Here's the new cool thing to check out. Ooh, shiny, go take a look at it. And so all these contracts that you guys have done, very expensive contracts, by the way, maybe for a smaller and smaller piece of the general viewership of hours in the day, people actually look at video. So yeah, I definitely see that the social interaction and getting people as a recommendation engine using social that way is going to definitely screw up some business models somewhere there.
Well, Paul, if you were working with, let's go back to your Sky thing, and let's say that Sky has Fox content and Net2TV content and YouTube and Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime and HBO Go. And some soccer games because you're in Great Britain. Okay. Gotta have soccer games. And the subscriber's going to be in and out of all that stuff, but still a subscriber to Sky's, what's the name of the product? Now TV. Now TV. So you're still a Now TV subscriber, but you're kind of spinning inside and upgrading, downgrading, changing your products. And we always want the subscriber to go up, right? Now TV is primarily on handheld devices, or is it also going off to a big screen with a...
Yeah, they've got set-top boxes that you can buy Now TV pre-installed. I think the pricing model right now is pretty standard. It's a fixed monthly fee. There's not that much choice in there. But there's certainly the opportunity to bundle in all sorts of different products in there to provide more choice. And I think, as competition carries on, minimum 12-month commitments will disappear. Certainly if you subscribe to Now TV without the set-top box, it's just a rolling 1-month contract that you can cancel at any time. And that's one of the attractions to many consumers. And I think, with creative marketing, referrals, gifting, free trials, promotions, get the first month for free, these are all ways where Sky and others are able to increase the number and the acquisition rates of subscribers to the service. That's the hard bit. Of course, then you can work hard with great quality content to keep hold of them and to work on the churn.
Got it. Edward, what?
I have 2 more technical details. Actually, OTT set-top box, what we developed, can run multiple subscriptions. So you don't need to jump from Verizon to DISH onto somebody else. We can actually pass authorization and authentication for multiple services simultaneously.
Okay, stop. So that means in the same way that my iPhone, I can have my Netflix subscription and my Amazon Prime subscription and my Dish to be named subscription and my Verizon What's It subscription on my iPhone. You can make a what? What's the word for a set-top box that can take anybody in?
This is just that set-top box, and we will provide user experience through which you will be able to search all content but you are subscribed on. And we will actually push recommendations based on your current subscriptions.
Yeah, but if Adam is providing this thing, he's going to ask you to program it so that it cannot take Verizon.
This is one model, but you just brought cell phone model. Why subscriber not go to this Best Buy and buy their device and then go to Adam and buy subscription? And then you go to Netflix and you will buy subscription from Netflix. You will build your own package, actually.
Wow. I'm back to my kitchen table.
And all content will be delivered to you through the unified electronic programming guide. Browsable, searchable, and interactive.
Tom, you were...
Yeah, I've gone completely virtual, so any piece of hardware that's not already in the consumer's hand. I define a television as anything my viewer thinks is a TV into discussion, so they bring whatever screen they want. The interesting part is, if Nielsen says that the average consumer watches 17 channels. There's now 500, and now we're going to get 500,000. And what they're going to pick is there are one or two affinities or special interest. And I think some of the people that are at risk aren't even the platform guys. It's the vertical market programmers that historically owned a franchise. MTV owned music. A&E owned arts and entertainment. I defy you to define Duck Dynasty as arts or, generally for me, entertainment. So the problem is the quality replacing programming that backfills into these affinities. Because what is the consumer missing once they use Netflix and Hulu Plus? And believe me, if you don't think they're using smart TVs, they are. The ad in the top right-hand corner of Samsung had more impressions than all the DAI ads in the cable industry last year. I mean, because...
That's not a fair comparison. DAI isn't rolled out, so...
I understand. Okay. But the point being is, I've had lots of people say no one's using smart TV. It's not true. What they're using is Netflix, Hulu Plus, Pandora, and Amazon Prime, and throw in HBO Go. And everything else is a waste of time right now because the programming sucks. And those television devices are TVs. And the person's bought it for TV. So Sherry's got a great future ahead of her because she's got quality programming. How she distributes them, how she bundles them is Wild West for the next 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, look, we're talking about consumer ease of use. We talked about authentication as well. That's quite a challenge. And I think back to Sherry's point, about TV everywhere. Everybody talks about TV everywhere. Everybody talks about access to all this great content. But when you look at some of the stats and data that's out there, only 1 in 3 television subscribers know what television everywhere is. They don't even know how to use some of the apps to get some of this content. So it's really, I think, incumbent upon the ecosystem as well to be out front and educate consumers as to the wild, wild west that we're talking about here. How can they easily get authenticated content? Going almost like a one-stop shop, so to speak.
It's interesting you mentioned TV everywhere. The working title for this panel was initially over the top is nothing more than TV everywhere plus a credit card. As a point of fact, you're marketing direct to consumer, but instead of authenticating through a service provider, you're taking a credit card payment. The functional business is roughly the same, as long as you're delivering it off your own servers and not using the operator's servers or platform. And frankly, you might be doing that anyway. All right, we are getting close to the end. First of all, do I have people who have questions? We do have. I want to go out here, and then we're going to have a chance to do a roundup for all you guys. Final comments after a bit. Mic on? Take mine. I won't.
Thank you. I have a question specifically for Eric. Since you are on the panel for virtual MSOs, there was some confusion recently about what Verizon's plans actually are in this space, because your CEO recently came up and he said, actually, we don't want to do linear, we don't want to buy bundles, it's all too expensive, we don't want to do that. And a week or two after, OnQ's CEO resigned. So maybe you can clarify this a little bit for us.
You're allowed not to comment.
There's a lot there, to be quite honest. I'll just say very simply, anything is possible. I don't think that, again, getting back to my capacity comment, we want to make sure that there's content available in an anytime, anywhere environment on any screen. And, I don't want to subscribe to just one particular business model right now. This is a very complicated marketplace, what we're talking about. I don't think we have all the answers yet, but at the end of the day, the consumer will vote with their wallets and will provide whatever service they're looking forward to paying for.
Tom.
Yeah, as a person who's involved in, if you will, a precursor to OnQ, let me address the idea that where we all started was the idea that a virtual MSO would clone Comcast. And I, as a person who built that economic model, as a virtual MVPD, I will now tell you I've seen the model, I can build it very profitable, but it's still a dumb idea because you're just cloning the status quo and it's not the strength of an IP-based television network. So I think the on-cue guys, I don't know the strategy, I haven't been involved in a long time, but I think if you look at PSS, it's a different, lighter weight model built for LT. They're all putting multicast antennas on top of their cell phone towers, but they're not going to he's not going to broadcast by us over a cell phone tower. He's going to broadcast something that looks like a couple of sports programs, and everything else is going to be on demand. Because why do that stuff? You know, some stuff works really well as broadcast, but he'll have a tablet service that's much lighter weight that look more like Adams. So that's, to me, the big bulky, that's at least $50 million to $100 million in upfront minimum guarantees, at least $250 million to $500 million in programming loss fees the first year. You work on, even if you're working on 30% margin versus 200% margins, I mean, the economics, you can do it, but why in the world are you doing it? Adam.
One thing I'll say too to that is this is going to put a much bigger impact on advertising and sales. A huge, stress isn't the right word, but really a huge reliance on ad sales as a revenue source for this business.
Yeah, the hottest thing in the cable industry right now is addressable VOD advertising, DAI. Everybody's sold out. We're seeing double, triple CPM. Chris Hawk from Black Arrow is floating in the room. I know the numbers, and it is on fire. So why is Comcast trying to roll up with Time Warner? To build national advertising scale.
All right, guys, we got 2 minutes. We're going to go down. Who has a projection for 18 months out in the future that you want to challenge my kitchen table with an untethered Comcast? Eric, where's it going to be in 18 months?
In 18 months, where are we going to be? 18 months from now, you're going to see, again, more pressure on the network with the 4D or the what is it, Super 4K. 4K. Sorry about that. Got my alphabet super wrong. Super HD, 4K television.
Talk about eating bandwidth.
Excuse me?
Talk about eating bandwidth.
Need a ton of bandwidth for it. So right now on our Fios network, you can get up to 500 megs. We've already tested in our backbone 10 gigs. So in terms of 18 months down the road, as soon as the content guys figure out that, that a 4K model is profitable, we'll be able to carry that content.
Thank you. Tom.
First virtual operator will be an existing multi-channel provider like Adam's product. You'll have some elephants in the room that enter the business because they have to. iTunes is cratering over at Apple. They will have to enter the TV service or streaming business, not for hardware reasons, but to replace the iTunes revenue. So you'll see them enter. You'll see Yahoo enter as a television service, and Google will still get it wrong.
Adam.
I'd say more OTT products will be out in the marketplace. Don't read into this, but possibly less MVPDs or MSOs than we see now. Has nothing to do with me, but just how we're seeing the business. And also a ton more content and a lot more education in the marketplace. Education will now be what's TVE, what's the difference between TVE and OTT, what's OTT and the difference to live streaming, to VOD, DAI may actually be a word that people might hear more about. So a lot more education and confusion.
Paul.
I think there'll be a lot more competition. And I think content will be sliced and diced and packaged in many different ways. I think there'll be much more consumer choice. With that will come a lot more creative marketing opportunities. And from that, yeah, I think we'll see a fragmented market for a little while, and then it'll all start to normalize. So 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now.
Sherry.
So 18 months is a short time horizon, I think,
It is.
and I don't think you'll see a tremendous amount of shifting in terms of what consumers are subscribing to. I think you'll see the emergence of a couple of new services, maybe the PSS, a couple of other over-the-top providers I think will probably emerge, whether from incumbents or new entrants. I think you'll see a continuing shift of viewing from live to time-shifted. I don't think you'll see a huge uptick in non-professionally produced viewing. I think that's still going to be a small percentage of what people watch. And I think there will be quite a bit of experimentation in terms of advertising and how to monetize content in the face of a declining appetite from viewers to watch ads.
Thank you. Mick?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a little too short for vast change to happen with all of the OTT products. But you're going to see the first ones come on. Consumers are going to be given very good deals to try to sign up for these. And that's going to start the cascade of everyone trying to get a better deal. And I think at some point you're going to have to get beyond, we're just giving you the same very high quality content, professionally produced, and you're going to have to start doing further features, further something else in the mix, recommendations, something to give the best quality content to the end user. And whoever wins that battle and educates people on where that is, which product that is, they're going to be the ones that start really rolling in a whole lot of customers.
Edward.
Prediction, it's always a hard thing to make, especially for this short period of time. But I think, personally, we will see real virtual cable operators sooner than we are expecting. And when it's happened, it will be like snowball. It's not going to be one, then another one in 6 months, like typical cable time, right? 18 months to deploy another service, 18 months to deploy another service. This is internet technology and internet scale. You don't need to spend $20–50 million to buy backend from Motorola. You will go directly to Akamai. You can launch your service in 3 months. You can try it. You can try your business. If it will work, it will be snowball. If it doesn't work, you will close down. So I predict that if content guys will unlock content for streaming, we can expect kind of exposure, big exposure for virtual MSOs.
Very good. All right, and if any of those projections come true, join us next year at TV of Tomorrow to find out. Thank you all very much.